Jeffrey can't read. He obviously learns how to read in school, but he just can't concentrate on the words on the page because his attention span is fried. He reads a sentence and immediately forgets that sentence. And so Jeffrey never reads books. Adonis's favourite activity after procreation is learning the wisdom of other men. He spends a great deal of time deep into quality books and then practically uses the wisdom he's learned to master all areas of life. Alright, second set. I'm your bro.
Is this heavier than the last one?
This is 5 reps from this shit, like stacked, bro. It doesn't, like, you can't even get more weight on this bitch.
6 reps now, buddy.
It's supposed to be a 5 rep set, bitch. Okay, let's go for 6.
Yeah, 6 reps. Or your Jeffrey reps. Simple. Very nice. That's not easy money, easy money. Too easy cooking money. Let's go. One more, let's go. Push that. Good for us. I reckon 7 next time.
Fuck you, bitch. Say hello to YouTube. And what we got in?
If you die, you die. At least you got big legs. Let's go. Yeah, press those hips. Press those hips like this. That's not me, bro.
There's just a couple of books that have truly changed my life, and if you're anything like me, they'll change your life too. First of all, my name is Hamza. I help young men go through the Jeffrey to Adonis transformation through self-improvement. If you're interested in that, scroll down right now, click on the subscribe and the post notification button. It's a win-win for both of us. I've got to tell you a story first. I was cycling back from my kickboxing session. I ended up speaking to a girl who said that she saw my YouTube videos recommended on a page. She had watched a bunch of the videos. She said, like, you know, it was awesome that I was doing like mental health for guys and everything. And we ended up speaking about mental health and meditation. And she said that she daydreams a lot. She's 16 years old. I'm assuming that she's, you know, like a lot on her phone. And she maybe doesn't have great focus when she's reading or writing in her college work. And this is very common. And before I even tell you the books that I read, there is one prerequisite that you need before you start reading. And that is mindfulness. If you do not meditate consistently, you will not be able to grasp the value and the wisdom in a book. Because what will happen, you can correct me if I'm wrong, okay, we're going to assume that this is a book. You're going to start reading, and within just one sentence, your mind has already started to daydream / think about something else. So although the words, I'm looking at the words and I'm truly reading the words, my mind isn't even learning from these words. So I can complete the paragraph. And if I turn this away, I wouldn't even be able to tell you what I just read. And this is why the majority of people think that reading is pointless and boring, because there's no value to it. Unless if you have the mindfulness to be able to completely focus on what you're reading right now, and any kind of thoughts you get are truly about what you're currently reading. So if that's what you're experiencing, there's just a 2-step process that you need to do. 1, reduce internet use. Specifically, it is the internet use that, like, heavy internet use that is causing this. Mind wandering, daydreaming, mindlessness comes from heavy internet use because the modern world has fucked our attention spans. The internet, the TikTok, social media, all this bullshit. We're seeing data too quickly. Because when you scroll on TikTok, you see something new every 0.5 seconds. And imagine what that's doing to your brain. So every 0.5 seconds, your brain is processing something new. We've never had information that quickly. That's step 1, and step 2 is to start meditating consistently. Don't overthink it. A lot of people, you know, they have to ask all these questions, like, what exactly do you do? What do you think about? Although I can get into the specifics, don't overthink it for now. Download one of the apps. Literally just show up and just turn on the app every single day, hopefully at the same time. Follow it for 5 to 10 minutes every single day for the rest of your life. Don't overthink it. As long as you just show up to the meditation practice, after some time, you'll begin to understand what you're supposed to do. For now, we just need to get you into the habit of starting that meditation session. With that said, let's begin with the life-changing books that I've read. So we're going to do something interesting. I'm going to tell you the books in order that I read them. So I have pretty much never really been into reading because I've been very mindless, which, to be honest, I wasn't expecting to like go into this much detail about mindlessness, but it kind of just gave me a really big sense of sadness and guilt and shame that all of my life, especially through the education system, bro, I fucking struggled. Like, I wanted to do good. I wanted to be able to read. I wanted to be able to pay attention to the teacher. I just couldn't, because when the teacher was talking to me, my mind was elsewhere. And so I cannot tell you anything, let's say, truly valuable that I've read up until I started meditating. And the first ever times I started meditating was, I believe, around 2019. And so this was just after I graduated from university. I've got depression, I'm binge eating a lot, very, very bad anxiety, and I am currently working a full-time job. I'm getting paid about £60 per day. 60 for £8, I still remember the exact number, £8.41 per hour. So I'm getting paid that much per day, and I hate my life. And there's 2 books that I think I must have searched, like Escape the Rat Race, like every fucking 20-year-old who hates his job searches for. And there's 2 books that were being recommended. And so the first book that I can ever sort of think back to that I've kind of learned from is The 4-Hour Workweek by Tim Ferriss. At this point, I wouldn't consider myself a businessman or an entrepreneur at all, even though I did have like a small side hustle of reselling clothes on eBay, and I was making a few £100s a month from that. But I read this book, and it was exactly the book I needed at this point, because he compares the life of a very slim-cut entrepreneur who only does the important tasks compared to the 9-to-5 rat who does, you know, the full 8-hour shift and tries to do as much work as possible. Now, this book gets a lot of flack from idiots. I'll just be completely honest. It gets a lot of flack from idiots because they look at the title, they judge a book by its cover, and they start spazzing out, and they're like, no, but I need to do more than 4 hours of work per week. It's just the title. It's like a play on words. You know, that there's the 40-hour work week, and so he's just taken off the 0 because it sounds nice. Relax. You don't have to do, like, everyone starts spazzing out because like, oh, but what if I want to do more than 4 hours? Well, then do more than 4 hours, dumbass. But at least I didn't have this stupid mentality. I was reading the book. It was very, very interesting, and I remember thinking like, nah, it's fake. A lot of the times I would like read it and think, okay, it's kind of exaggerated or some shit. What this guy's saying, like, you're making 40. This guy's literally saying he's making $40,000 per month. I was like, nah, shut up, bro. And it's very realistic. Now that I'm in this position, I can actually see exactly what he's done. And so the main takeaway from this was that more work is not better. Now, in terms of career, especially if you make money with your body and not your mind, we can say that more work will equal more money. Let's say if you do a very, very like manual body focused work, like an Uber driver, an Uber eater, because a lot of young guys do this. Uber Eats, Deliveroo, you're like the courier who takes the food from the restaurant to the person who's bought the food. And so if you work 1 hour, let's say you make $10. Now, this strategy of the 4-hour work week won't work for you because you can't exactly shorten this, because if you work 6 hours, you'll make $60 on average. Of course, some hours will vary. If you work 12 hours, then you'll make $120. And the issue now is that this low-end job, which most people have experienced, has convinced most people that more hours equals more money. And it does in this basic low-end job that you don't actually want to be in anyway. The issue, which I'm going to try and break down this mental process I had, and I truly, truly promise you that it was this book that was the first life-changing book for me, because it was this book that convinced me to leave my full-time job and to start these businesses. Like, I am here today because this book gave me the confidence to do this, because it took me genuinely a couple months of journaling to be able to like grasp this concept by myself, because no one's like in school is going to teach you this shit, especially like not in school when they're pushing you towards normal careers. But this guy, the vibe that he had was that if you drastically reduce your work hours, you almost restrict how much work you can do. You'll automatically only do the work that's important. And if you only do the work that's important, you pretty much get the same results anyway. But instead of working 10 hours and doing 10 hours of work, let's say if we restrict it to a couple hours, let's say if we restrict it to four hours. In these 4 hours, you're going to do most of what you were going to do in these 10 hours. It sounds tricky up until you've experienced it yourself. And so this idea of drastically reducing your work hours comes from 2 productivity tactics that Tim Ferriss gives in the 4-hour work week. Those are the 80-20 rule, Pareto's principle, and Parkinson's law. So these are like productivity techniques or tactics that are very, very common now, but he made this book like over 10 years ago. And I've said this in a few of my videos, but if you were one of the people who read this book in like the 2010s, you would have destroyed your competition. I can't believe this book. Like, this guy talked about dropshipping before, like Shopify and everything. If you read this guy's book, you would have been so successful if you had like the mind to understand it. But anyway, so Pareto's principle is that 20% or a small amount of actions gets us most of what we want, and the majority of things that we spend our time on give us like a very little. So let's say in my business right now, I've already implemented this, like I've read this book 3-4 times over the last few years. So I constantly re-implement these techniques. But let's say if I was being a dumbass and let's say I was being a stereotypical Asian. Let's just be honest, right? So because Asian, brown people, Indians and Pakistanis, we have this culture, okay, more work equals good, more work better, right? So if I was a stereotypical Asian, I would be doing 14-hour days on my business. I would be making these videos, but then I would be spending 2 hours a day on emails and 3 hours a day replying to every comment and 2 hours doing random bullshit admin tasks, as much as I could do, right? I'd wake up, I would work, I would eat, I would go to sleep. 14-hour days. That's the dumb version of Hamza. I work about 2 to 4 hours per day, and I produce more than this dumb version of Hamza. How? Because in my 2 to 4 hours of work per day, I only do what is important. You may have emailed me, and you may have been thinking, well, this guy's a bit of a prick, but why hasn't he replied to my email? I don't check emails. Like, I literally check emails, like, maybe twice per week. Honestly, not even that. Like, sometimes I just kind of accidentally see it when I'm, sometimes you put your email in something, it tells you, okay, go get the code. So you go onto your email, and then when I'm getting the code, it's like there's an email there which I'm looking at. But I barely even look at emails anymore because it's not part of the 20% of stuff that gets me 80% of the results that I want. Now, straight away, people are panicking. What if you get X email, Hamza? What if someone's invited you onto a podcast? What if this thing, right? What if this bad thing could happen if you aren't active on your emails or your comments or, one of these smaller tasks? Tim Ferriss had a fantastic saying for this, which is still ingrained in my mind. Be okay with small bad things happening. The majority of people are not okay with that whatsoever. This is such a powerful phrase if you're into business, if you're into like a lot of different things, honestly. Be okay with small bad things happening. For me, that's missing an email that's somewhat important. That's, let's say some big YouTuber has emailed me and he said, oh yeah, come onto the podcast. And for some reason, he can literally only do the podcast in the next few days and I haven't seen it. That's a small bad thing happening. My business isn't going to collapse because of that. And when you're okay with small bad things happening, you focus all of your attention on achieving the huge, great things. So I might miss the random email. I might miss the comments. But I'm focused on the thing that truly matters, which is the videos. Like, uploading a video at least a few times a week, but right now we're aiming for every single day, is the 20% of actions that gets me 80% of the results. This is literally one of the very, very few things that I care about in my business. Because this is the only thing that actually changes everything. Because I could start spending 10 hours, I could reply to everyone's email in a few seconds, everyone's comments, and that would make you feel good, that would make me feel good. Imagine if the videos start lacking. Even if I was doing all of that admin shit, I was replying to everyone's email, I was doing all the small stuff, I was putting in the Asian number of hours, 14 hours a day, but I was missing the one crucial thing, the business would collapse. The emails would stop coming in, the comments would stop coming in. You wouldn't care about getting a reply from a YouTuber who's got a dead YouTube channel. And so what I have been doing, which Tim Ferriss has recommended, is that you constantly, every couple of months, re-question yourself of the 80-20 rule and truly ask yourself, okay, what is the result I want right now? Right now, the result that I want is to spread my message and to skyrocket the size of my audience. What is the main task, the one main task that will do that? It should be obvious. It's just uploading videos. Everything else needs to take a way, way back seat. The second productivity tactic mentioned in the 4-hour work week is Parkinson's law. Imagine this. You're a student. You've been set a homework that is due in on Friday. When are you going to submit this homework? On Friday. What if your teacher said, no, it's due in tomorrow? When are you going to submit this homework? Tomorrow. When we get a task and we get a deadline, we do that task to that deadline. It's common sense, right? So Parkinson's law is this idea that when we set a deadline, that whatever task we have will take up till that deadline. So what if we set an artificial deadline for ourselves to skyrocket our productivity? So what we can do is set ourselves our own deadline that's even earlier than the real deadline that we truly have. So if you're a student right now and you have an assignment due next week on Wednesday, you can say to yourself, okay, no, it's not due next week on Wednesday. It's due this Saturday. You truly believe this, just say to yourself, it is due on this Saturday. I'm going to get it done. I have to get it done on this Saturday. You'll get it done this Saturday. So the task automatically just takes less time. So these two productivity tactics combined mean that you can truly cut the fat out of everything you need to do in your business or in your studies. Now, the 4-hour work week is generally about, minimizing your work and going into a sense of essentialism. But it's got a very interesting attitude where the purpose of like minimizing what you want to do is, at least in Tim Ferriss's view and in at least mine as well, was to achieve the digital nomad lifestyle. Now check back onto this channel, onto my YouTube channel in a couple of months, and you're going to see me in some interesting countries, because I've been following this book as my blueprint to construct this life that I currently have. And it has truly worked. Like, I am living proof that this book works. I am more successful than I've ever been. I make more money per hour than anyone I've ever met or heard of before in like real life. Like, I don't know a single person who makes more than £100 per hour. £100 per hour. And I like reject coaching / mentorship applications because I'm like, £100 per hour. It's not even that much anymore. I'm a dumbass, bro. I'm a dumbass, and I'm telling you that this book is most of the reason why I'm successful. And that's why I've spent so long of this video going over it, because if you want to achieve a similar life to me right now, where my life is literally like, this is my work shift. After I record a couple of videos for about 2 hours, I'm done with work. Whereas other people are slaving away for like 12 hours. It doesn't make any sense to me, because I've read this book. And so this book really gave me the inspiration of the digital nomad lifestyle, which is that you make money in a strong currency, in like a strong Western currency like the dollar or the pound. Essentially, you work online, you make money online, you can scale it infinitely, and then you go and spend that money in a, let's say, southeastern country where the currency exchange is quite strong for me. So I'm making money in Great British pounds. I will go to Thailand, I will go to Indonesia, I will go to Malaysia, and the life quality I'll be able to have there would be fantastic. And so one final thing that I have really loved from this book is the idea of mini retirements. You will probably agree with this. I don't think any young person thinks about retirement, thinks about saving for retirement, where we don't believe in it. We do not trust that we're going to get a retirement, that we're suddenly going to hit an age and we won't need to work. We don't trust it. Why? Because that's fucking stupid. It is truly stupid to think I will work for the next 40 years so that when I'm 65 and I'm almost dead and I've got Parkinson's and arthritis, that's when I'll enjoy the freedom and I won't have to work. I want that right now. And so Tim Ferriss gives this idea of mini retirements, where he says instead of slaving away for 40 years to then retire, he says to have a mini retirement of a couple of months per year whilst you're young. And that is like your break from the hardcore, like the grind that you've been on. And so the way that I've been structuring my life is that I'm going to be doing about 6 to 9 months of pretty intense focus work with my head down, waking up at 5 a.m. and maybe having like one kind of social situation per week, but mostly just like grinding away, skyrocketing my self-improvement, my business. And then for about 3 months, I'm going to do the absolute like bare minimum, even less than I'm doing right now, whilst I'm, for example, traveling around the world and I'm going on lots of adventures. And this is truly becoming a reality. Like for the last year, I have truly done the work and I've been focused and everything. And in a couple of months' time, when the COVID restrictions come off, I'm completely set to go traveling and to literally just have to upload a couple of videos per week. Like I'm completely set for it. I've got enough money for it. I'm ready for that. And I love the idea of that. I love that every single year you can think you could take 3 months off, because it baffles me that normal people's like vacation, like holiday, like they work every single week and their holiday is like 2 weeks. This is the book that will give you a new understanding of life, money, career, and it's lifestyle design. This is the book that truly started lifestyle design. And if you're not currently designing your lifestyle to how you want it, you're just allowing the system around you, the education system and the society around you to determine it for you, which is a very, very bad idea. Highly suggest you buy this book. The second book I read, which I will briefly cover, is The Millionaire Fastlane by MJ DeMarco. This book is on entrepreneurship. And again, it's one of those books that most dumbasses will look at the cover and start spazzing out because it sounds like clickbait, because it's the millionaire fast lane. Oh, you can't get rich quick. And right now, the idea of getting rich slow is more appealing to people. Like, I know that sounds stupid, but more people would actually think like, oh, but that's the humble way to do it and shit. That's stupid, bro. Like, whatever. I'm not going to try and convince you to change your route of wealth, but this book is for the 1%. Or at least the guys who are trying to get into the 1%. And it truly breaks down the specifics of the type of business you need to explode your wealth. And it's very, very much worth looking into. In this book, I remember reading this book and thinking, bro, Asian people need to read this book. Dead ass Asian people. Because if you're brown and your father is like self-employed or anything, and all of his like friends are self-employed, you'll notice that everyone has the wrong business. They just care about money. They're not doing the business because they're so fulfilled by having a corner shop or some shit. But that business idea is terrible. When you put it against the millionaire fast lane and what's recommended in this book, you'll realize like essentially the business idea that most brown people have is complete trash. Like, it doesn't fulfill any of the right criteria to be a successful business. And so best case scenario, it becomes a shitty boss. And so best case scenario, it becomes a shitty job where you've got this complete asshole as a boss, which is yourself. And that's like the worst thing that you want in a business. If you're getting into business and you truly want to explode your wealth from that, and you hopefully have the confidence and the humility to just admit this, because it's kind of like a sin to admit that you want some wealth these days, read this book. And also, to be honest, you can just maybe skip this book and go directly onto his new updated book, which is Life, Liberty, and the Pursuit of Entrepreneurship. It's by MJ DeMarco. I'll have it up on screen. That book grasps the same concept of this. This new book is massive. Like, it takes literally weeks to read. But again, it's dead ass, like a very detailed, specific, step by step, exactly what things you need in a business that will make sure that like this business gives you financial freedom. If you truly are like business minded and you want to be self-employed and you want to explode your wealth, you need to read a book like this, which goes into the specifics. Now, the third book that changed my life and brought into me a sense of philosophical mindset, maybe some kind of spirituality for the first time ever, never thought about this type of stuff before, was The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. This was the first time with this book. I remember something very, very interesting with this book. So I was reading this book at the height of my bad period. I'm 21 years old, 22 years old. I'm addicted to weed. I cannot stop smoking weed, bro. I'm literally like, I'm quit, right? I've quit. And then I'm on the way to pick it up again with negative fucking thoughts, just regurgitating in my mind. The moment I start smoking, I get a few minutes of release whilst I'm actually smoking, and it's kind of fun to literally smoke. The moment I'm sat there with the high, the negative thoughts come back, and then I'm having negative thoughts about the negative thoughts. And it was like an internal battle into my mind every fucking day, and I'm doing nothing with my life. I remember getting this book, it was probably recommended on Reddit or something, and actually thinking to myself that every fucking paragraph of this book was life-changing to me at the time. I could only read about a paragraph per few days. I remember the whole book took me like months to read. This was the time, I've mentioned this before in other videos, that I had to my progressive overload, how much I could do, dropped with everything. I had to do literally about 30 seconds of meditation. Like, the smallest amount of meditation you can do on most apps is about 3 to 5 minutes. I would set that on, and dead ass within 30 seconds I had to stop to smoke more weed, because it was just frustrating. My workouts went from being a standard 1 hour or so to literally a few minutes per week. And so I was reading this book about a paragraph. I remember every single paragraph, every time I'd sit down to read, I'd be like, oh my, this is it, this is the escape. And like, I had it right there. This was the book that truly got me out of this like rut, this big ass rut. It wasn't even a rut, it was just my life at this point. But this is the book that really got me out of it, and it just took me months to read. And the lessons of it, from what I remember, I've only read this book once. I have tried to reread it, but it doesn't like hit the same now that I'm not in a very negative mindset. Now it's kind of like when I try to read it again, a lot of it, if you're like a healthy person, a lot of it's just kind of like common sense. And so it just felt like, oh, I don't need to read this shit. But when I was down bad, it was very, very valuable. I'm trying to think of the lessons from it. The one very, very important lesson that I remember that he said was that you are going to experience problems no matter what. And that's something that most people don't actually understand, or like, you know, most people don't realize. We think when we get X, everything's going to be okay. When we get that job, when we get that relationship, when we get that money, that house, that trip, whatever, everything's going to be okay. It's bullshit. This author, Mark Manson, drilled in this idea that no matter what you do, you're gonna have to overcome problems. Like, life is literally just consistently solving problems. And he said, stop setting goals based on what you want, what like rewards you want. Start setting goals on the problems that you want to solve. And this struck a chord with me straight away. I'd been trying all these shitty businesses. I'd been working night shifts, pretty like low quality jobs. And this helped me again with something the 4-hour work week helped me with, which was lifestyle design, to think, what the fuck do I want to do with my life? And it was this question that truly helped me, which was not just what do I want. Most people ask themselves that basic ass question, what do I want? Well, bro, you want a lot of things. That's a stupid question to ask. Ask yourself, what problems do you want to solve? Because you're going to have to solve problems no matter what you want. Whether you want to be an astronaut or a bin man, you're going to have to solve problems. Which problems do you want to solve? So at the time I was doing like drop shipping, I was doing like ebooks and, you know, just basic shit that like, and I was learning how to code and everything. And I thought to myself, that isn't the problems. Like, I don't really like this shit. The problems with drop shipping is like getting fucked by Facebook ads for the 7th time this week. If you drop ship, you know what I'm talking about. I don't want to solve that shit, bro. I hate my life when I'm doing Facebook ads, bro. And the problems with coding is having to like, to put yourself into this understanding of this foreign language, which it's so hard to describe how you have to use your brain with something like that. And that wasn't what I wanted to do whatsoever. The problem that I wanted to solve, you know what came to my mind, truly came to my mind, was the technical aspects of YouTube. Specifically, this was the real thing that came to mind. Was I was thinking, okay, the program that I use to edit videos, the way that I record, you know, so I could imagine something going wrong. I could imagine it kind of being annoying to edit a video and it taking a while or something. I was thinking, you know what? Like, that's a problem that I could solve. That's a problem that like I've got experience on. I've been making videos since I was like 13 years old, making little cringy Minecraft videos. I can do that. I actually somewhat get like a sense of enjoyment solving the random little problems that come from being a YouTuber. And that's how it started. From this moment, I finished this book near April/May 2020. And how many times have I told you boys that May 2020 was when I changed my life. I moved back home and I just got on this fucking grind. This book was also the first time that I thought about values. So although I had seen the word values come up on the red pill before, it was in this book near the end where Mark Manson says to like really think about the values that mean a lot to you, and he says to like number them. I'd never done this before, and actually it was here right now where I realized that my number one value at the time was promiscuity, was casual sex. That was like my number one priority still at the time. Like, that was what I valued the most, because I hadn't updated my value. Now, I had not somewhat been in that lifestyle because of the depression and anxiety and shit for about a year straight, maybe a year and a half. And I was living with my girl at the time as well. And I'd not been in that lifestyle, but I still valued it the most. And so I remember how depressive it used to be. I've said this to you boys, when that is your purpose, like when chasing pussy is your purpose and you're not getting pussy, you feel so deprived. Like you are literally not fulfilling your purpose right now. And it was this book that truly made me sit down and think, wait, that's stupid as fuck. I remember setting my main, like number one value at the time to be something like humor or fun. And I remember immediately I started having more fun. Like, it was such a very quick change. And then I started, you know, restating what my values were every now and then. And so I set, like, I had a list. I will try to like go through the journal. Maybe I'll show you the journal page I had at the time. But I had a list, and I remember setting things like curiosity, adventure, social connectiveness, or relationships. And this was when I went away from this idea of just, okay, the most important thing is just fucking. And I actually went into something which helped me. And this book was very significant. And if you're in a rut similar to what mine sounded like, where you're smoking weed and shit and you're just kind of like, you hate your life right now, you feel very directionless, this is like a weirdly no bullshit philosophical book. Because how'd you say that? Philosophy is like, it is like somewhat bullshitty. Like, a lot of people will disagree, but it is like, it's not my vibe of no bullshit. Like my vibe is, okay, I will tell you this one sentence. Philosophy is like, I'll say something that might make you think something, but I'm not gonna tell you what that something is. And I don't like that shit. Like, just tell me, bro. Like, do you know what I mean? And so this book is the thing that just tells you. And this book is like a mix of a bunch of like philosophies, and I feel like it's mostly quite like stoic. So now the fourth book that changed my life, which you're all gonna know. You probably thought this would be one of the first books, but obviously we're going in order from what helped me. So I started reading this book in about June/July 2020, about a year ago. And it is How to Win Friends and Influence People. Now, I had actually bought this book in my third year of university when I really needed to read it. I bought this book and of course I didn't read it. And so I bought it again. I've got it lying around. What legacy of a book. This is the book that I write my successful coaching clients in. I won't really show you their names, but like I've got like a list of names here. So at the back of this book I write like the lives that I've changed, which is quite emotional, bro. Yeah, but it was this book that one really got me into reading. Like, a lot of people complain about this book and they start spazzing out like, oh my god, but he gives so many examples. That's what the fucking dumbass video editor keeps saying to me. Sam keeps saying like, oh, he gives so, shut up, bro. Just read the book, bro. You need it, fam. So this book got me into reading, but it really taught me that social skills are a skill. Like, that's how many times have I said this on my videos. Social skills and pretty much everything we're trying to level up in self-improvement are just a skill, just like we used to level up skills in video games. And you get education from learning about it, and then you go practice and train to level up this skill. Before this, I always felt like I was somewhat social, extroverted, and that was just based on almost like luck, that, you know, you just kind of get like a positive feedback loop from just, you know, being around people. It was this book that truly gave me the principles to live by, and a few of them to this day are so ingrained in my mind, and that's why I stand out in social situations compared to most people now, because of what this book drilled into me. And generally, if you want the shortcut of it, just think about the other person. Essentially, just empathy. If I had to bring this book down into one word, it would be empathy. Think about the other person. What do they care about? What would they like to talk about? When you can do that, you are fantastic in social situations. The reason why you feel spurgy or weird in social situations and you feel like, you know, you mess up your words and you're overthinking about what you said and everything, about how people treat you, it's because you are a self-centered asshole. Now, I'm not supposed to say that because we're supposed to see you as the victim, but I'm gonna see you as almost the bad guy, because I was. When you are completely obsessed with yourself in a social situation, you make it so that no one wants to talk to you. Because who does everyone want to talk about? Themselves. So you could be, with the knowledge of this book, with just the one word of empathy, you could be part of the very, very few people who are good at social situations, because instead of thinking about what you want, instead of thinking about what you're thinking, you speak about their interests. And when you do that, you make a person feel so valued that they will cling on to you. They will literally fight to speak to you. And I'm dead ass, like that's a somewhat of a true story. Not like a physical fight, but like that's somewhat of a true story, where I've had people like pulling me, bro, physically pulling me to like speak to them. The next book that really helped me was The Magic of Thinking Big by David Schwartz. This was a book on mindset, specifically thinking, obviously. And this book in itself gave such fantastic analogies that I still keep in mind today. So an analogy is like a phrase, like a way of understanding. And so one of them I'm going to teach you right now, and it's about overcoming negative thoughts. And so the author in this book says, think of your thoughts like a radio station in a car. You're tuning into the radio, and he says, think in this radio station, there's like two different like frequencies, two different channels. There is the P channel and the N channel, the positive channel and the negative channel. The more that you tune into either of these, the stronger, louder, more dominant they become. Now, most of our lives, we've been just constantly tuning into the negative channel. When the negative channel pops up, we're like eagerly listening to it, eagerly like paying attention to it. Every time we do that, we're strengthening the negative channel. He says instead, once we understand and we're mindful that we are currently in the N channel, you almost declare to yourself, no, I don't want to listen to the N channel, I want to listen to the P channel. And you can force P channel thoughts into your mind. You can almost sit there and think, okay, P channel, like what's like a positive thought? Well, I hit the gym yesterday and I meditated this morning, and I woke up pretty early yesterday as well. The more that you listen to the P channel, the more that you force the P channel thoughts, the more that these will automatically generate in your mind. This book was fantastic, and this book is actually recommended by Tim Ferriss in the 4 Hour Work Week, and it is the reason why I hit 50k months earlier than I actually planned I would. When I did hit 50k, there was like a little video of me. I was having a shit as well. There's a video of me just kind of 20 seconds just saying like, yo, I'm reading the book, The Magic of Thinking Big. I'm going to hit 50k by next year. So I literally 50 times my audience size in less than a year because I had the magic of thinking big. The book Influencer has really helped me in influencing. This book helped me a lot when I started coaching people on self-improvement. And the knowledge has really helped me make these videos as well. So when I was reading this book, I realized my competitive advantage. I am specifically spending my time and energy learning how to influence and persuade the people who are listening to my videos. Most people, most YouTubers will never do this because they would rather work on the business for 10 hours instead of working on themselves. This is the book that breaks down exactly how to influence a behavior change into someone, and that is so powerful. Think about that. Imagine knowing exactly everything that comes into influencing someone's behavior. If you're a personal trainer, if you're a parent, if you just want to help your brother, if you want to help your friends on self-improvement, if you want to do what I do, which is to lead an audience or to coach or mentor people, this is the book for you. And this book, in one of the first chapters, explains how to induce motivation into people. And there's a couple of ways to do that. First, and probably one of the most important, is to give them a choice in what they want to do. So you construct the pathway, but inside of the pathway, you let them choose like how they want to walk that pathway. So for example, you come to me for fitness advice, right? You want to look good. Well, then I'm going to get you into the gym and we're going to get you doing weightlifting. That's one of the things that we're probably not going to give you like so much of a choice on. Now, if you really said, okay, I want to do body weight training, I want to do like calisthenics, okay, fine. But generally, I'm just going to say, okay, do weightlifting, go to the gym. But inside of there, if I say, okay, this is what you're going to do, you cannot change this, and there was an exercise that you really didn't like, you would lose motivation. You wouldn't want to go to the gym that day. You'd make any excuse possible. But what I do with my clients, what I do with the aesthetic body course that I sell, I make it flexible enough that the person who's currently running the program can choose the exercises that they want. Now, I will give you the exercises that I recommend, but a lot of the times someone will come to me and say, oh, I don't really like this. And I tell them, yeah, change it to this. And they're almost surprised, like taken aback that they can just change it so flexibly. And it's because that they have this choice that they then are excited to find a new exercise replacement for the one that they didn't like. And that's the motivation right there. And then there's a few more, which is like to break down mastery into smaller goals. So mastery, we can say, is the 10 out of 10 body transformation. When someone comes to me, we're not going to focus on that because that's 5-10 years away. Instead, what we're going to focus on is getting them to hit a few workouts per week. This is like, the standard knowledge right now is stop thinking about the far result-based goal and instead think about what you can do this week. So we're going to tell them, you hit 3, maybe 5, maybe 6 workouts this week and we're going to celebrate. And so that, it's like, it gives them like a box to tick a few times a week, and we're so excited for them to hit the number that we want. And finally, the 2 other ways of motivation is to gamify it, turn it into a game, and then to add a sense of competition. You do these 4 things, you've already induced motivation into someone or even yourself. And what I've just told you is like a very small amount of this book. They go into literally like how your desk should be. Like if like the walls outside of your office are in a particular like material, like they went into so much detail. And It's very worth reading this book if you'd want to do exactly what I do, which is to influence and be like, you don't want to just make a video. You don't want to just like go on a call and give someone advice. You want to like truly see them make a real change in their lives. So we've got a couple more books, and this is where I think it gets truly interesting, because these ones are somewhat recent, but the 3 books that I have for you now have really, really helped. So this book right now is Deep Work. And do you know what? I actually saw a book summary for Deep Work just recently. I was doing a little recap of it. I scrolled down to the comments, and there was a comment from me, like on my YouTube channel a year ago, saying like, oh, thank you for this video. Like, I understand what deep work is. I was thinking like, no, you don't, bro. You had depression when you wrote that shit. You didn't even pay attention. So I actually learned about deep work far before I actually read the book a couple of months ago. I made a Skillshare class for deep work. So if you don't want to read the book, if I remember, I'll link the Skillshare class below, and it's like 30 minutes, and I've shared it to a fair amount of people, and they've said that it's really, really helped them. Like I've taken all the practical stuff of deep work and just sort of put it in like an actionable follow along video, and you can just like watch the free class if you want to do that. But this book and the concept of deep work has been fantastic. It ties in so well with the 4-hour work week, which is the idea that instead of just doing quantity, instead of just doing 10-hour days, you limit your work and you focus entirely on making a few hours as good as possible. And so again, I only work for a couple of hours per day. And the reason why is because in these couple of hours, I achieve more than my competitors do in 10 hours. Because in these couple of hours, I don't check my phone. In these couple of hours, I've optimized so many different variables to make these couple of hours as strong as possible. And because I know that I only have a couple hours to work, I don't fuck around. I don't waste time. I don't check emails. I don't spend an hour making my logo or doing stupid shit. Like, go and look at my channel art on YouTube. It's still the one that I made when I had like 1,000 subs. I'm not going to change that shit. It's literally not worth my time to spend even a minute to change it. I don't do stupid shit. I do deep work or no work. Sometimes I have to do like the essential shallow work, which is like uploading the video, doing the thumbnail, obviously. That's like the stuff you have to do. It's shallow. It's not like deep work or anything. You have to do that shit, so I do it. But I don't do most shallow work that my competitors are doing. And this, I wanted to actually say this before in the 4-hour work week. So if you're interested in that book, hopefully listen now. This is the way that you are now going to structure your work life to destroy your competition. You are only going to do deep work and the absolute essential shallow work. Most shallow work is not essential. Whatever you think it is, it probably isn't. It's literally something like uploading the video, because that is absolutely essential. You can't get away from that. Like, I could pay someone else, but it's like, that's the task that has to be done. Most shallow work is absolutely not essential whatsoever, and we want to trim all of that out. We want to cut all of it out so that our work day now lasts for about 2 to 4 hours per day. And that's going to be kind of scary, because you're thinking, but wait, surely if I worked for an extra 4 hours or 10 hours, I would achieve more. And you would. But the value of that time, the amount that you produce over that time, would be pathetic compared to the first few hours of very focused work. What would be better, and which is what I do now, is that we restrict the work to about 2 to 4 hours, and for the rest of the day, instead of working like fucking donkeys like everyone else is doing the 14-hour days because they're coders, and that's what it's like in India, bro. Instead of doing that shit, we're gonna spend the rest of the day recovering, reading, resting, and that's our competitive advantage. I am where I am today because of how much I've read. Because whilst my competitors, again, work like donkeys and they're working 10-hour days on their business, I only work for a couple of hours. But the reason why I'm beating them is because after I'm done working for a couple of hours, I have 2 naps per day. I spend time with my girl. I go out and like do like social stuff, which like, it refreshes my mind. I meditate a fair amount. I read for at least about 2 hours per day. And because I've read these books, think about how much my life has changed because I read these books. That's my competitive advantage. You shorten down your work. You get most of like the value out of your work in just the first few hours. And then you spend the rest of the day doing the extra sort of side things that make tomorrow's deep work even better. And that's why my 4 hours of work is better than most people's 10 hours. If you want to destroy your competition, read this book. An interesting book we're going to talk about now is Attached. And I've mentioned this book recently. This is a book that really taught me about attachment styles. Now, attachment styles, this is like a topic of a book which I have never really read before. So all of the books I've read are like, basic self-improvement, productivity. This book is about relationships and love. and I learned about what attachment styles are. So we'll give you like a quick like little 101 psychology lesson. Attachment styles are formed through our childhood based on how our parents loved us and loved each other. And so there are 3 styles. There's 4, but we'll just say there's 3 to make it simple. And there is secure, anxious, and avoidant. Most people are secure. That's what the authors say. And about like 25% of people are like anxious and avoidant. I'm anxious. If you were shouted at by your parents, if you were slapped by your parents, you're probably going to be in the anxious style. If, for example, your parents never really shouted at you, your parents had a loving relationship with themselves, with you, you'd be the secure style. And if, for example, your parents were like distant, cold, or if they died, you would be the avoided style. What's kind of scary and uncomfortable is that how we interact in our dating life as adults, how we fuck, by the way, is formed at childhood based on what we've witnessed from our parents. Most people feel too uncomfortable to ever sort of like consider this to be the truth, and because it defies free will. We like to believe that right now we get to choose exactly how we behave, but then it's not the case. Like, how we love is determined at childhood. Now we can change this, but like this is the shitty argument that most people bring up. It's like, oh no, it's not determined because you can change it. Yeah, but the thing is, most people have never done the self-improvement / introspective work to change it. How many hours have you spent over the last few months sat down thinking, okay, how can I change the way that I love? Probably 0, right? Most people have done like 0 hours of anything like this, which means that how you love right now, how you date, is formed by your fucked up childhood. Now, if you had a secure childhood, fair enough, like nice, good for you, bro. But most people, I say most people, and the reason why is because the secure people always get into long-term, pretty much always get into, like, you can imagine the secure people are the ones who got into a relationship in high school and they're still together. Now, they might break up, and the girl, for example, has slept with this one guy, that's the only guy she slept with, and maybe she'll have like a couple of hookups in her life, like 2 hookups, and then she get like the final boyfriend at 26 years old, and they get married, and like that's their life. Whereas if you've got anxious or avoidance, bro, you're gonna fuck. Like, you're the type of guy who sleeps with fucking 50 girls, and this is the type of girl who sleeps with like 50 and 20 guys. And these attachment styles determine how we feel and how we think in our dating and sexual life. And so, for example, with my anxious attachment style, I'm constantly anxious and I'm constantly overthinking when I'm paired with someone who ignites that feeling inside of me. And so every girl that I've dated, every girl that I've been interested in has put me into this state, apart from the girl that I'm currently dating, where I actually don't feel like anxious at all, which is, it's very, I think, 1, it's based on her because I think she's a very high quality girl, but 2, it's based on also that I've done this work and I've been reading this book and everything. I kind of understand how to hopefully like reframe my mind a bit. So if you find yourself dating and you find yourself, for example, getting obsessive thoughts over this person, constantly thinking about them, you probably have the anxious style, and it's not good for you. And I highly suggest reading a book like this, because I wasn't gonna, I'm not gonna lie, like the books I'm reading is like entrepreneurship, productivity and everything. And so this book was like, it almost seemed like what, maybe sexist, but like what a woman would read, not like a big masculine man like me. But I am so grateful that I read this book, and this became very, very quickly the book that the book that I've gifted the most. As soon as I read it, I ordered like 3 copies, and I just started I gave one out to my father and everything, bro. I highly suggest you read this book, because as you go through it's like a fun book to read as well, but as you go through the examples that they've gave, it kind of hits you and you're like, shit, like I do that, like that's exactly like they said anxious attachment style is like this, and you're like, wait, that's exactly what I do, that's exactly what I feel. And it's so nice just having it wrote out, and you kind of realize, like, 1, it's kind of normal, but 2, we can categorize exactly how you feel. And once it's in a category, it's so easy for us to say, okay, look at this other category, this secure, healthy attachment. Let's try to emulate what they're doing. And in the pursuit of emulating secure people, you bring a lot more healthiness to your relationships. And I've said this many times, your relationships are probably the most important part of your life. Everyone spazzes out and they're like, no, like something else is. But it's like, what could be more important than love? For your family, for your friends, for your platonic partners, like the girls you're dating. I don't think there's anything more important than that, personally. Now you can disagree and say, oh, it's purpose, bro, but it's like, that is our natural purpose. You only think it's purpose just because you've been watching too many red pill videos. Now the final books that we're going to go through, I'm going to categorize this as one book, but it's a trilogy of 3 books. It's all like kind of it bounces off each other. You'll see what I mean. Is the .com trilogy by Russell Brunson. So Russell however you say his name. This is the guy who's made the website ClickFunnels. And if you're into entrepreneurship, you probably know this website already. This is like the place you go to not exactly make websites, but to make, we could almost say like the new age website, where instead of, you know, the standard website where it's got like info and about and everything, this is how you sell in this modern day and age. You don't sell on websites, you sell on a funnel page, you sell on like a landing page. You probably like bought shit from like my page, for example. It's just like a basic page. It's not like a website page. It's literally just a basic page with just text and like a big buy button. Like that's how you sell in this modern age. This guy, I read this guy's book. I read the .com Secrets book. I made $15,000 in the next few weeks. Just put it that way. Dead ass, I made this money because I read these books. Like, I promise you, I read these books, I implemented the tactics, I dead ass made $15,000 in the next few weeks after implementing these techniques. It was incredible. And I honestly, like, I implemented a lot of this shit wrong. I had to like go over it a lot of times and everything. But it was this trilogy. So you start with .com Secrets, then you go to Traffic Secrets, then Expert Secret, oh no, whatever the order is, right? It's this trilogy that teaches you how to be like a new age marketer. And it's so clear to me now that this is how you make money online. Like everything else, forget everything else in terms of making money online, in terms of like what I'm doing here of social media mastery. It is the stuff in these books that make you the money. Because you thought, okay, to make money online, be a YouTuber. But how exactly does a YouTuber make most of their money? Because it's not directly through YouTube. It's selling stuff. That's quite frankly what it is you build up the audience, and then you direct the audience to something that you're selling. But the way that you do this process, the way that I was originally doing it before I had this knowledge, which was literally just keep making videos, and then at the end of the video just say, oh yeah, click on the link if you want my one-to-one help. It's very suboptimal. Like, this is the strategy made by a guy who's invested literally hundreds of millions into like split test and everything. This is the most effective way. It's time and time proven again by so many people, by me now as well, that you implement exactly what this guy has put in these books. So the first book, .com Secrets, is like marketing 101. Like, you learn exactly what marketing is, exactly what the basics are, what you have to do to start. Like, if you want to do exactly what I'm doing in terms of my business, in terms of start some kind of social media channel, grow an audience, lead and influence that audience, and then this is like your full-time job, this is your business, this is how you make your money. It's these 3 books that will help you with this side. And I was so surprised as well. This is why I love this trilogy, that it wasn't just about the entrepreneurship side. It wasn't just about the business side. It actually goes through specifically the personality that you've got to take on. And that's like, it was almost a surprise. So in the second book, I think it is, yeah, the second book, Expert Secrets, he actually goes into exactly how you should be acting to be persuasive. And I love that addition to it, because I thought it was just going to be about making money. And that's awesome. But one of the things I've wanted to learn continuously over the last year is how I should be acting to be more attractive to you, how I could be more persuasive, how I could be the person who has the personality of someone who has 100k, 500k subs. And the second book in this trilogy really taught me to do that. Now, I highly recommend, again, if you want a business like I have, you start with the first book, .com Secrets, and literally just put your trust in these books, follow the steps, and it's not even that hard to follow, honestly. Like it was so interesting going through this, because I was like, fuck, like this is literally it's a cheat code. It's literally the blueprint. Like, he tells you exactly what type of like things to do. He tells you literally everything you need to know. You could emulate my same business. And it's so interesting that anyone you see who's like popping on YouTube or anything in terms of like entrepreneurship, and they've used it for their business and they're not doing it for like a fulfillment way, you'll see like the exact same thing, because this is what has the highest conversion rate right now. This is what has like the most effectiveness right now. And so I can even like go onto some random person's website and like landing page and whatever, they have the exact same business model as me. Now, that's going to be a problem soon, potentially months, potentially years. And some things will have to change, because eventually, you know, if everyone does the same thing, it's like then someone's going to try something new, and that's going to be the new tactic. But for now, the majority of beginners are not using this. So if you use these tactics, you'll instantly get at least on level to the people who are doing it right and who are making a fair amount of money. And the final book that I'll leave you with is a fiction book. I don't really read many fiction books like at all these days, because I prefer right now, I'm so much more inspired by books that I can learn from rather than books just for enjoyment or the story. But this book I read probably about 6 months ago or so, and it's World War Z. And I actually really love this book. It's like a different style where it's not just a continuous just story, and instead it's broken down into like the accounts of people reliving the breakout of like the zombie war. And it was like the book that literally made me stay up past my bedtime, which often does not happen. And so this is like the fun book that I really recommend if you want to read for fun and for the story. You read this book. So one final note I want to give you is that I am where I am because of reading. The amount of guys I speak to who don't read, it truly baffles me, but it also excites me. It excites me because if you're a dumbass who doesn't read, I will destroy you. I know that sounds weird, but it's like, you will never compete against me. Like, you are not part of the competition. If you don't read, you are not part of the competition. So it's easier for me. Now, I don't want to say that about the guys that I love, but that's the unfortunate thing. There's people probably watching this part of the video, they've watched the entire fucking video, who I love, who have helped me so much, who I've helped, and I'm so disappointed, in not so much a horrible way, that they just don't read. Because the amount of times I've said this to people, I am where I am because I've read these books and because I've implemented the techniques. If you're not reading, you aren't getting that competitive edge, and that's your loss. And the reason why you probably aren't reading, like I said at the start of the video, is because you haven't actually learned from the books just yet. And you haven't learned from the books because you have mindlessness, because you haven't meditated for long enough. That's where you've got to start from. Do the hard work, especially when you don't feel like it.